I ended up saying yes to the bricklaying, and I ended up doing it. And I got put. I'm not gonna name him. And and then basically what happened, and my dad told us straight away, because I went in, I was keen as out, and I was going to college like 1 day a week and then doing the other 4 for him. Like, he was meant to be teaching us. And then a long time went where I in fact, it nearly went 2 years and I didn't actually lay 1 brick for him. Like, it was that bad. And my dad told us from
What were you doing?
I was a bricklaying apprentice that never laid 1 brick for this guy.
What were you doing for him?
Well, just labouring, but my dad told us, my father told us a couple of months in, he went, he's using you for cheap labour, because I was on £20 a day at the time. And labourers at the time, like, sort of cash in hand was 50 quid a day. Yeah. So it was less than half in terms of saving money.
If you're listening, HMRC.
I hate HMRC, but I'm not going to name him. So my dad was telling us from day one, he says, he's just using you for cheap labour. But I was like, this is it. This is going to be my career. And I gave everything into it, you know. And it just... he was coming up with different excuses. He was like, at first it was, I didn't ask enough questions. And then I started asking questions, and then it was... I wasn't asking them. I should have asked that 2 weeks ago, which is, I mean, without getting too sentimental, but for someone who's like, everything I've tried to do has failed, like, it started to get intimidating at that point, because like, and then I started like doing his head in with questions. I was like, no, this is going to work. Like, this is what.
I mean, what a stupid thing to say, because I mean, like, how many questions can you take in one day?
I'd
be like, shut the.
but that's what I was saying to him. I was like, if that's the case, I'm gonna blag your head. And then he turned around and says, I haven't got tools. So at this point, I was turning 18. So on my 18th birthday, I got a trowel, a level, like just the basics off me dad. That's what I got for my 18th birthday. And then I come in with the tools. And bearing in mind, it's been well over a year into my apprenticeship, never laid 1 brick. And then he turned around the training centre saying, I'm just here to give him site experience. You should be teaching him how to lay bricks for 1 day a week.
This is like...
That's bizarre.
So basically
mental.
On TikTok recently, like, we've been sort of thinking, how do we go viral on TikTok? And we had an apprentice thing, didn't we, that went absolutely nuts. And we were talking about... Pete sat there and he said... Because his experience was a good experience being an apprentice, he had somebody that looked after him. He said he felt like, oh, well, actually, now that I'm qualified, I need to just pay back some of that time that he spent with me and stuff like that. But when you hear stuff like that...
obviously you're not sticking around. You owe that guy nothing.
And this is maybe why now it's got to a point where people are just treating apprentices even worse than they were 20 years ago. And that's why people don't want to go in, especially if you're £20 a day, you're 17, 18, you still want to go out with your mates, or you want to go and buy yourself anything. Like, doing that, and you know that other people are on 50 quid, it's demoralising, isn't it? So you're thinking...
And the fact you're not learning anything either. It's a lose-lose.
Well, that was my dad's concern, because my dad was like, it's going to get to the point where you've actually got to do your final assignment.
And you won't have learned.
And you won't have an
you've never laid a brick.
Yeah. And then I started to like click on, because I was sort of in denial, because everything else had went wrong for us. And I was sort of in denial. I was like, no, it will come good. Like, I kept the faith, because it was the last thing I had. Because by the time you're 18, you almost, if you haven't got like, you haven't been in any training or anything, you sort of feel like it's over by that point.
Half your mates have gone to uni, or, you know, other people have got jobs and they're working. So if you haven't got something at that point, you're comparing yourself to everybody else, aren't you?
Did anybody your age, when you first went into it, did any of them also go into the trades, or were they more uni or straight into work? Or?
A lot of me mates were sort of like straight into work, but there was a couple of me mates. It's funny you mentioned that, actually, because a couple of mates that put up some shifts for the same guy on like a Saturday, like, because he was like, oh, bring all your mates and give them 20 quid a day sort of thing.
They was happy with that.
Pipe, looks like I'm doing the thing, 20 quid a day in the van like this. And then, but all my mates after one day were like, he's a divvy, him. I'm not going back. And that was sort of my last thing I was clinging on to sort of have a career anyways. But I ended up starting to make sense of it all, and it was far too late into the actual apprenticeship. He was talking to us quite bad, And then one day, something snapped in my head, and I was like, I just walked away. Cause I was like, it's going to get escalating to some bags. I've had enough at this point. And I just walked away. And then the next day I went into the college and says, look, and they sort of knew that I wasn't, like, because there was been some sort of correspondence between him and them.
Yeah.
But they've sort of been like, so they've knew that I haven't been doing it. So how did they sort of let it go on this long as well?
I think the issue is as well for the college is they really struggle to get people to support them, to support you guys. So if they get somebody, they're in a hard place, because I'd imagine they don't want to piss him off, because I think, well, actually somebody else could go and work for him. And actually they should be like, well, he needs to do this. If you can't do it and he's coming back telling us you can't do it, move on. But he was probably like, oh, yeah, because he knows he's getting you for 20 quid a day.
Aye.
Which is just wrong.
And I think he'd have got government support for that as well.
He got two payments. I think he got one payment of £1,000 when he first took us on. And then I think after like 6 months, he got another £1,000.
So he's literally just getting free labour.
This is where the argument happens. Is it is because you get government support, but I get what Pete's saying as well. Because
if somebody's actually training though and doing a good job, it makes sense. But in this situation,
if they are and they've proved themselves, I think pay them what they're worth. But at the same time, with Pete, what Pete was trying to say is, yes, you might get some government support, but then you might get somebody that comes good in the end.
Yeah.
But
what I'm saying is that doesn't count in this situation, because the employer was not training you, wasn't teaching you anything.
And he was young as well. I think he was 26 when he took us on. That's why I don't want to name him, because maybe he's turned over a new leaf and all that.
Leopards don't change the
Still doing like you, I mean?
They don't change the spots.
You ruined us. No, I'm only joking. But I am. So it got to the point where I had enough, and I went to the college the next day and went, listen, I'm nowhere near like any further steps forward into being a bricklayer since I first went. It's been a year and a half now. I'm not going back for him, because we're going. Like, I didn't like the bloke anymore. I've given it all I've got, and it's like there's no hope now. And then the bloke who was there was like, well, if you finish with him, you finish with us, sort of thing. And I actually turned round to the bricklaying instructor, Ed Stoddard, actually his name Class, he turned around and was like, I'll have a word. And he went in that office, was like, this is a safeguarding issue. Like, I believe he's been bullied and exploited for cheap labour. I feel obliged to at least give him a chance to get his MVQ too. And that's what I done. They sort of paid me wages, and I got put through like a crash course for the last 5 months into being a bricklayer.
Nice.
But well, you think if you hadn't have actually made that decision then, and it got to the end of the 2 years, you wouldn't have probably even had that opportunity.
No, 100% no. Because that's sort of the thing. It's like, I did leave it too long, but if I left any later, I would have been catastrophic for us. Like, I wouldn't know where I'd be now if I didn't do that.